episode of Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining me for our conversation today. Thank you to our sponsor, Hearst Limontes, an Indiana law firm representing injured Hoosiers and their families for over 50 years. I'd like to thank everyone for their continued support. I am here with my friend, Morgan Decker of Rubin and Levin. Thank you for being here, Morgan.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Alex.
So when I mentioned that I wanted you to come on the podcast, you got really excited because apparently you're a huge podcast nerd. Is that right?
I do love podcasts, yes. I'm a fan of all sorts of different types. So I was like, oh, yes, this sounds like a great opportunity.
What is it like? What is it about the podcast that like draws you to it? Like, why?
Well, I'm old school, so I like the art of storytelling and listening.
Yeah.
And although I love television and movies and all those things, I really like engaging only my mind sometimes instead of like visually seeing something. So I do love that also because, we drive in to downtown and out of downtown. Like I just like the calming effect it has.
Yeah.
Sometimes different than listening to music. So, and I like to hear information. I feel like that's probably our attorneys' brains. Like I just like knowing things, whether it be about law or the etymology of words. That's one of my favorites, or stories, or trying to think of what else I listen to. I listen to a large range of things, so some of them not so admirable, but like they're entertaining.
Right.
So I like all of them. I even saw a clip of like Pat McAfee's podcast with the live feed, and I thought, yep, see, I just love it. I don't even know really what they're talking about, but I like the energy of it. So.
Yeah. There's a podcast with Amy Schumer on it. I can't remember the name of it, but it's hilarious.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, my wife loves it. So my wife listens to essentially murder mystery kind of things.
Yeah, serial.
Yeah. So just so she can just be even more terrified of the world. So
I steer clear of every now and then if I'm going on a long road trip, because that could really keep you engaged for 6-7 hours. But yeah, it's a little much. I like to listen to a little bit lighter. I like Wait, Don't Tell Me. I like quiz, game shows, knowledge, information being fed to me.
So Morgan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Indianapolis. So born and raised, I grew up in Butler-Tarkington area.
Okay.
Went to IPS schools. Moved in 8th grade to Pike Township, so grew up on northwest side of town, and then went to IU. I mean, just like born and bred Hoosier through. So, thought I was gonna leave, never left. So yeah, I'm from here.
Where'd you go to law school at?
McKinney, so right downtown.
Did you know when you were an undergrad that you wanted to be a lawyer?
No, I originally started undergrad thinking I was going to go to medical school.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a really strong background. I mean, I love chemistry, very good at it. Calculus, advanced math, very good. And then got down at IU in Bloomington and got into biology and some other courses. And, honestly, life takes you the direction it's supposed to go. But those particular classes were early in the morning. And they were across campus, and it would snow like 4 feet, and I just could not do it. And I thought, and then I also did not like the sight of blood, which I quickly discovered is probably very integral to being a doctor in most cases. So I thought, I might not want to do this. And so then I switched around the middle part of my sophomore year to a criminal justice major. I took one elective, and I really liked learning just about the system, and really was the criminal law side of things that got me into the legal profession. And I wanted to be either a criminal defense attorney or a prosecutor or a judge was my ultimate goal. So that's what led me to law school. And at least led me there, but I just didn't come out in the criminal area because it just was going to be too much for me to handle, I discovered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you might know this about me. I was a public defender for a couple of years. Yeah. So what I had a case assigned to me. It was a child molest case, and that was the day that I essentially resigned from the agency. because I knew I couldn't represent that person. So is that kind of like the similar thing that you had to deal with?
It was, I think, like once you get into the real kind of meat of the actual practice, then I mean, it's you would watch Law and Order, and you kind of know criminal law from outside the legal profession pretty well because most people are exposed to it. But I did a summer doing like post-conviction relief. It was great work. It was public defender work at the state level. And I really loved it because there's a great need there. But I just was going through the trial court records and reviewing, the crime scene photos and it was second year law school. I was like, I
can't do it.
I can't do it.
No.
I can't do it. So didn't really know exactly what that would mean, but I just knew like I can't do this particular thing. And when you think that's what you're going to do, then you are like, well, you wait to see what's going to come about.
So eventually you started doing the work you're doing now, but what was your first job out of law school?
It was bankruptcy.
Was it?
It was.
Where are you working?
I worked for a large high volume law firm.
Okay.
Multi-state, 100% consumer practice. So, and to be quite honest, in practicing in this particular area now, I try to facilitate new lawyers to come in and say, well, look, you should try bankruptcy, because I had no experience with bankruptcy. I never took a law school class. I don't even know if they offered it when I was in law school. They probably did, but and I don't really even think I knew the concept of what it was besides, Michael Scott yelling it during the office that he was declaring bankruptcy. That's about the extent of it. So
great episode.
We used to use it all the time in the office.
That's great.
But so I never knew anything about it. I had worked at the election board. It was 2008 was the huge presidential election.
Oh yeah.
And so when I graduated law school, I stayed on and helped with that. It was just too historic to not be involved. So I stayed on there. And then when I got done with that, I thought, oh, I need a job. And so this was just a job opening, and I took it. And then I quickly learned, like, wow, this is kind of like the best of all worlds, really. I would think personal injury kind of has similar feel. Like you are in an area of law that kind of has it intersects with a lot of different other areas of law. Correct. You can meet people who are dealing with issues that are unrelated to bankruptcy, but
correct,
they're all intermingled. And it's very interesting. It's never boring. You learn a little bit, but you don't have to be an expert in family law, right? So I like constantly being challenged. I like new information, hence the podcast. So like really quickly, and I really like people.
Yeah.
And so I just knew certain jobs you just don't interact with people quite as much if you're doing transactional work. And so I really loved it, and I got a lot of experience very quickly.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is a really good gig. And I did that for almost a decade and really enjoyed it. So, and still do enjoy the actual practice, even though I've changed some of what I do. So it's not easy to say that you're in the same job and like stay that after your first law school job.
Right. Do you think that some of that you mentioned earlier, that you excelled in advanced calculus and you really enjoyed that part of it, do you think that because there are a lot of numbers, a lot of finances involved with bankruptcy type issues, you think that a lot of that drove that?
Somewhat. Like I love math and numbers. So my mom's was an engineer. She's retired now. So like I have some of that just kind of like naturally as part of like how I deal with things and process things analytically. So I did, yes, I think that's part of it, because, and also, in a lot of aspects with the law, you're dealing with like cases, and, you're differentiating or you're comparing and contrasting, and, code-based law, like bankruptcy, and just, it's a numbers game, and numbers are it's like science. They're pretty certain.
Predictable.
Yes. Although, I always am like, well, it depends. But, there's some things in numbers that are a little more certain than other areas of law. So it's really nice. And honestly, it's something, it's not necessarily as joyous as, let's say, someone once told me they only practice adoption law, a particular person.
Right.
They said, oh, I love it. Like, It's not always 100% extremely fun, but most of the time it's fun and it's a joyous occasion. And, bankruptcy too, the numbers were great, but then also you just get to give people a sense of relief. And
Correct.
even if I don't get to see it as I finish out somebody's case or issues, eventually I know that they're going to be in a better place. So especially if you're doing it for years and years, you just would get people, coming back and saying, hey, I just want to let you know, like, so much better. So, I think it was probably a combination of all those things, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would feel like that's one of the biggest drivers there is the client's feeling of relief. They have this debt lifted off their shoulders,
Right.
that, and similar to what we get to do with our clients,
Exactly.
although predictability is certainly something that is lacking in my area.
Certainly think so.
Right. Yeah.
Other side of that spectrum, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know what to expect.
Right. So let's talk about, you said your practice shifted a little bit. What are you kind of, you were doing a lot of consumer-based work, right? Just helping like normal families, everyday people. But then eventually you saw a shift in your practice. Was that when you started working with Rubin and Levin?
Yes, it was. And the legal community here in Indianapolis is extremely small. I mean, I don't even think I'd say Indianapolis. I would say Indiana. You get to know people and see people. And so I had always worked at some point periodically with Rubin and Levin on the other side of things. The firm represents and has a lot of trustees that either worked at the firm and or we've represented trustees over the years. And so I had already become familiar with the trustee, Elliot Levin, who was one of the namesakes, and some of the support staff who still help me today that were on the other side of things, 15 years ago when I worked at my first job. And so there is that, but I still do work for individuals every now and then, but it's changed. Usually it's business related. They're a little more complicated. When I first started, naturally, these are easier cases to deal with. Typically, they're pretty straightforward factually. And now, it's part of the experience. And after you've been doing it for a while, the issues in front of you become more and more complicated.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the nature of the beast. So, which is great. It keeps you challenged. And, like I said, it keeps me engaged and, really entertained in the work that I do. But there's that. And then our firm does a lot of collection work throughout the state of Indiana, has been for decades. So when I started, I do a lot of collection work and creditor work within the bankruptcy system in Northern District and down here. And honestly, it's really been nice. I compare it to, if you're a public defender and you work in that role for a while and then you go to the prosecutor's office, you have a very good understanding of case building and issue spotting and all these things. So coming from the consumer side and then saying, well, now I'm looking at it from the creditor's perspective.
Yeah.
I could pick into a petition and say, well, I can spot A, B, and C issue pretty quickly and looks like we need to address this and or give a client a real candid conversation.
Yeah.
Like, look, I know what's here. I know what you're owed. I know the feeling of I'm owed this money and I want it, but bankruptcy is designed for this purpose, and we don't want you throwing good money after bad when that's just the way this legal system works. So I find it extremely helpful and useful, and at this point, it's just slowly growing all these areas of, I guess, nuance. We don't call it expertise because that's not what it is, but the more you're exposed to, the more you know at least how to try to analyze a situation and inform a client. So now I'm on the other side of things sometimes, not all the time. Yeah. So I still get to do some of that work, but I also use it to help me better inform the creditor clients, which is predominantly what Rubin and Levin is doing at this point. So I like it all.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that. Let's switch over to the business side. If there's any business owners listening. So when a business is owed money, what are some of the legal steps they can take to recover it, especially without damaging customer relationships?
Yes. Well, because it's the customer that owes the company.
Yeah.
That's
a bad customer, right?
Well, not always. That's like the debtor. That's the debtor side of things for me. And there's several people at the firm who have had that experience as well of doing some debtor representation. And, at least we like to think of ourselves, all of us in the bankruptcy practices, you're really just trying to get deals done, right? You're dealing with kind of what's left, and you really want to be efficient and effective and not mince words. Mm-hmm. Because if you do that, then there's nothing for anybody to get, and it's really just not, it's not a good result across the board. So I wouldn't say it's a bad customer.
Yeah.
People always would come in and say, well, I can't pay my bills, I'm filing bankruptcy, I'm a failure. I'm like, well, no, it's a circumstance, right?
Right.
It's usually
that moment.
It's usually not people racking up credit card debt, going to Saint-Tropez and buying diamond necklaces, right? That's the way I would tell
people. Have you ever been to Saint-Tropez?
I have not. It's on my bucket list. I'm sure it is.
I was in law school. I was broke as hell. But
and you went to Saint-Tropez?
Yeah, I did.
What did you do there?
Yeah, we did a summer study abroad in Strasbourg.
Oh, okay.
And I just rented a little cheap car and drove across France.
I was going to say, what did you do? Just walk around?
Yeah, that's all I could do.
That's all you could afford.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, I'm looking for it. I'm hoping to take my mom on a cruise.
You should.
For her 70th, which was a year and a half ago. So hopefully she doesn't watch this. But yes, so it's not a bad customer, but things happen. Mm-hmm. Business, this day and age, like a business, if you're a customer and you owe, someone else, between everything that's going on, it's just you're trying to juggling a lot if you're owning a business, and you're really trying to make sure you can do things like pay your employees, pay your rent, buy your products to sell, and all these other things. Now, from a creditor standpoint, yes, not necessarily a bad thing, but what's going on financially? Where are the assets? If someone just keeps pushing the ball down the road, I'll have it. At the end of the day, you're at the point, if you're someone that's owed money as a business entity, you have to kind of look at the writing on the wall. Do you need to get in quickly so you can get ahead of what's about to be, the bottom falling out of a company? Ideally, what I would like to see is, there's a lot of small business owners. How do you proactively get ahead of that problem? That's the ideal situation, because when people come to us and say, well, this company's owed us money. I had to call a couple of days, this company owes us money. I'm like, well, everything I pull says this company's gone. Did you get a personal guarantee? Did you get anything? Do you have a security interest in any equipment? And depending on how savvy that business is, they might not have had all that kind of information at hand when they loaned money or sold goods. And but it is what it is. But it just kind of depends on where things are at, and you really just have to kind of be diligent on the front end, or at least look into it. And Google is amazing.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, Google it or get on the Secretary of State's website. Small business owners don't have a lot of resources necessarily to spend tons of money on legal counsel on the front end. Do a little bit of research when you're getting that information from somebody or deciding to sell them money or goods or something. Make sure the business exists. Make sure you know what the tax ID number is or some other identifiers, because that information could be really helpful down the road if you need to actually take legal remedy against it. So
yeah. So if a client comes to you and let's say their business is struggling, how can they try to decide between maybe Chapter 7, Chapter 11, the difference between the two and what route they should take?
Well, Chapter 7 is a liquidation.
Okay.
So basically, that's if you're at the end of the day and if it's the business entity and you say, well, this business is just not going anywhere, we kind of need to wind things down, then you're really going to look towards just
getting rid of everything.
Yeah, like let's let the trustee facilitate taking assets, selling them if there's anything that's not secured by a different lender, and then kind of have everything addressed through the bankruptcy. I thought about it in my walk over. I'm like, I won't go into like code citations and whatnot, mostly because I don't have them readily at hand necessarily, but there's a lot of nuances behind it. Like if you're a business and you file a Chapter 7, you don't get a discharge. That's for individuals.
Okay.
And or if you're going to reorganize under a Chapter 11. There's reasons to do it, but it's kind of nuanced. So depending on the situation and really what the client or the principal of the business really is looking to do, there could be reasons for it, and there's reasons to maybe not do it and do something different. But really, if there's a good business, a viable business, it's still running or it still has potential and it's able to manage ongoing operations, but it just can't manage the debt that's accumulated up to that point, then that's a good reason for a reorganization. Honestly, that's kind of just, COVID is a prime example. Like, hey, I have a great business that's running. I mean, you could almost probably throw a stone and hit any restaurant that would say, I had a real disruption in my, ability to make money.
Yeah.
Here's why. Otherwise, it's a great business now that I'm open, but I had to take all this debt and other invoices or things that kind of accrued that I couldn't manage because I couldn't pay the bills while that cash wasn't coming in. Then maybe reorganization is necessary. Now, things are getting more expensive, inflation and everything else that's going on right now in Washington. I'm so glad we're in the Midwest.
Right.
Not that it's not affecting us, but I'm like,
yeah.
But that's just kind of building an issue. And on the consumer side, we've been talking for years. Like I still text people who I work with back in the consumer practice who are still there or have their own firms. And I read something the other day, student loans. I mean, that's an issue. Like, it's just going to be increasingly hard to manage that debt amongst everything else for the regular everyday person, just working a job, pay for daycare and, maybe put something in their 401k that's going to be something that has to be dealt with. And it's only a matter of time. And it's starting to kind of come to a head, I think. But
you're starting to see a lot of people, that graduated with a significant amount of debt.
Yeah, definitely.
Not like even like our parents' generation. They're like, I went to school, it's $3,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember when I went to Hanover and it went up every year. It went from like 15 and it was 20 something thousand by the time I graduated. And now Hanover's like 50 grand a year.
So the tuition, well, like
crazy. But I think because you basically live on campus.
Yeah, you'd have.
It's like a little community.
Yeah. So, gosh, I cannot believe that.
That's crazy. Like maybe like prices. So
so it's it's an issue. Like, I know that there's a whole generation of people who are like, well, I can't buy a house.
Right.
And then I have student loans. And then I'm putting off all these other things. And in addition to things being difficult during COVID or just after in terms of getting jobs, that, all that affects the consumer's bottom line. So any way you shake it, I usually am somehow involved or see some of that, whether it's on the side of the person that owes or it's going to be the side of the person that needs to get paid.
Yeah.
Because either way, those parties are affected.
My family immigrated here from Cuba after Fidel Castro took over, and this government took everything from my family, and that attracted me to be a lawyer. Insurance companies can be like bullies, and they have a lot of resources behind them. Give us a call here at Hearst Limontes. We are protective of our clients because our clients matter and you matter. Yeah. Have you seen let's say the Indiana legislature, any significant changes to the code in the last, 10 years, 5-10 years to address some of these issues?
I don't know. I mean, and typically in terms of like the bankruptcy realm and everything, I'm not as well versed with the Indiana legislature. You know, I'm used to dealing with and seeing it on the federal side.
Oh, in the federal court. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are sort of shifting or changing in the last year. Alex, to be honest, I'm like, well, my mind can only handle so much information. So I know the things I need to know, and the things I need to know that are important from a collection standpoint are unchanging, at least at the moment, in terms of what I've seen. And so until that actually somebody rocks the boat there, then I'm at a standstill and we're good for right now.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about some of your community involvement.
Sure.
Yeah. You do some work with Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic. I've done work with them too.
I do.
Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah. So they're a nonprofit. They provide, legal assistance to what we say is, the most needing of the people in our community. It's regardless of religious affiliation, but in line with, the principles of providing justice and equity to anybody that might need it, in the spirit of how, Jesus kind of in his teachings kind of embodies like caring for everybody, is including those who can't necessarily afford things like legal representation. So I got involved because a former partner at the firm used to be involved, and he said, look, I think you would really like this. And it just so happened that, like I said, it's a small community. I went to join the board, and one of the persons on the executive committee, I went to high school. I went to Pike with her.
Oh my God.
We had Spanish class together.
Funny.
And my sister and her sister were in the same grade as well. So when I submitted my application, she was like, oh, it's so naturally I'm on the board, not just because of her, but because hopefully I do great work, and they acknowledge that, obviously. Now I am I'm on the executive committee too. I have to think we've kind of staggered some things. I am the secretary at the moment, so I slated to step up eventually vice or co-chair, and then eventually president in the next several years. So they do great work, and part of that's just my upbringing.
Yeah.
So while my mom was an engineer, my dad was just heavily involved in service and community based. He worked at the Boys and Girls Club, which I don't know if it even exists anymore, to be honest. But he ran like youth development programs, usually focused on childcare and underprivileged communities, usually ones that are heavily, minority prevalent. And I forget exactly the sides of town that he was on, but he had a big impact on kids in the community. I met a lot of them. I still know a lot of them who are like, oh, your dad just really gave me something to, look forward to in the sense of belonging and pride. And I just don't think I'm meant to be here or practice law without giving some of that back, because I don't know a lot of people that look like me. I do know a lot of people that look like me in the legal community, but I think it's a responsibility for myself to actually share some of that knowledge and information and to be seen in that role. So that's part of the reason why I joined the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic, to just make sure I was doing that. And then with that, then there's all sorts of other things I'm involved in too, where I'm like, I don't know. It's like sometimes you're like, if I'm not going to do it, who will?
Right.
And
exactly.
And I need to be that kind of example for my kids and for other people as well. So you're heavily involved too. So I already know your show.
I just can't help myself.
I know. People are like, you should say no. And I'm like, sometimes I want to, but I'm like, if no one will, I will.
Right.
So you already know. But yes, I love it. I love the engagement. I love meeting with people. I honestly love people coming out like non-lawyers and talking to people, and they're like, well, you're normal for a lawyer. And I'm like, thank you, I guess.
Right. It's so funny. They have this crazy perception of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's better for the profession, right? To give somebody a taste of like,
right.
I speak with normal words.
Yeah.
And we're right down the street from you, so it's not, I'm not in opposition to you, but this is my job, and it just has somewhat of a higher calling sometimes, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that's what I think we bestow upon ourselves. It's the oath
Yeah.
from Law Day, right?
Yeah.
It's both kind of recited, and it's also the way that we're perceived by people who aren't lawyers.
Yeah.
But it's good to kind of break some of that down, right? When
Yeah.
we're like, well, you're great. I'm like, you don't sound like you were expecting that to be the case. And not everybody does think I'm great, So
Right.
we'll put that out there too. But
Well, I think, with lawyers especially, there's almost this inherent need to help other people. Like that, however we do it. I know litigators that do business litigation that, but those businesses are family businesses. They're owned by people,
Right.
So I think that's just one of the things that you will see probably resonates amongst most lawyers, regardless of your practice area.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You're helping somebody, and regardless of what that company or person looks like,
Right.
yeah, it's like a need to like help. It's an obligation to the client, right? It's like ingrained in what we do. It's like doctors in the Hippocratic Oath and tending to their patients, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
It's the same sense of like responsibility and wanting to be really diligent in getting a good result.
Exactly.
So, but
it's nice to, part of the reason why I do this, it kind of humanizes,
Exactly.
us. And I talk about, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your family. I talk about my family. People know that, my house can be a little bit of a shit show sometimes, like I told you.
On the
Vince,
walk-in.
the walk-in. Vince woke up this morning or yesterday, popped up. He goes, Dad, I peed in the bed.
Yeah.
And he peed all over our bed. So, but that's part of life, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. You have a family, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yep.
An interesting, our family dynamic is so interesting. I like things that aren't necessarily normal. I feel like it, it gives life a little flavor, right? And you start to learn, that everybody's different and we're all going through the same types of things, right? I very much believe that we're all human and going through all this, regardless of what we all look like or what language we speak or where we came from or what we do. But yeah, so like I have a family. We're a family of 5. So we have an older daughter. She's actually in grad school. I texted her yesterday. She's going to be 26 at the end of this month. And so I was texting her. I think I was sending her like Instagram reels the other night. And so she is my stepdaughter, but she has been my stepdaughter since she was about 18 months. So
yeah,
I've been around her for as long as I can remember too. And then my husband and I, so we have 2 sons. My oldest is 11. He'll be 12 soon. And then my youngest is 5, going on 6. So yes, the little kid.
You're an old boy.
We went to the movies last night. We saw the new Minecraft movie. Homework was done. I was like, well, let's get it done.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable. I like Jack Black all the time.
I think he's hilarious.
I do too. So we went to see it, and my youngest says, I got to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, I'll take you. So we go to the bathroom, and then we're in the bathroom, and I realized he only has one shoe on in the movie theater bathroom. And I said, where is your other shoe? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, did you wear it in here? He was like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, well, how do we not know where your other shoe is? But you get it, right?
Yeah. Oh.
So then we go back and he gets in the seat and I can't find the shoe. And I was like, I'm not even going to worry about it until the lights.
Yeah.
Cool. So then my husband had to like crawl underneath like the seat that reclined and get the shoe. And I was like,
take it off. Yeah.
But then I got home to lend to your story too. And I just love the reminders. Like I get these reminders, when you get stressed or you get like all these things happen. And I just love that like the universe speaks to me, things happen. And I just scrolling through, sending our oldest daughter like some reels on Instagram, and something popped up and said, you're never going to know the last time your kid asks or crawls into your bed.
Right. Oh yeah.
You're never going to know the last time that, you step on the Lego. I told them the opposite. I said, there's Nerf bullets everywhere in my house.
Oh yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
And someone said, one day everything's going to be in its place and neat, and they're not even going to be around. And I was like, you know what? So last night I got home and read that, and I thought, well, yep, that was my reminder. I'm just going to be in the moment and present in this phase, because you don't know when it's going to end, and it's precious. All the stages are, but
right.
This one especially, because everybody loves it. They're like, your kid did what? And I'm like,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You'd be amazed.
Yes. Yes. And especially in public bathrooms. What is it about a public bathroom? I mean, Vince may as well just take his finger and go around the damn toilet, and I'm like, don't touch that. Don't touch that. Don't touch that.
Yes. The other one I sent to somebody last night was just like, it says like people with young boys. And we had a conversation yesterday when we were eating, that just they don't sit still. Like, it's food everywhere, dropping. We're at Chick-fil-A, floor, touching this. They have flowers on the table, bless their hearts. No. My youngest son was like pulling it, about to bring it. I'm like,
ripping the
pedals off. I was like, can we just leave things here? And can we just sit still? And they're like, no. Can we do what? And I was like, yep, okay. And so I saw that. I'm like, okay, good. It's not just me. It's like, it's all of the people with young boys.
Yes, it's boys.
Yes, but it's a beautiful thing. So I quickly try to remind myself that.
Right.
In the midst of all.
Well, and I was going to ask you that, like, what advice would you give I was talking to someone at a seminar the other day, and he's got young kids that are going to be going into that stage, that 4 and 5 year old stage. Like, what advice would you give to like young parents, working parents, I mean, I would be like, enjoy that moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's easier said than done I'm not a seasoned veteran in this long game by any means, I would say, but I have enough of certain experience where I feel a little bit more, at least like at ease in the work I'm doing. I'm sure you can identify with that, right? It's different than when you were in your first like 3 to 5 years of practice where you're like constantly really like, wait, just even the everyday I'm kind of still learning about. But so I understand that that's a different beast in and of itself, where you're going to deal with things. And I think I went through my own struggles with my oldest son when that was going on, because I worked for several years, and then I had my son. I went on maternity leave. I came back to work. That was a very difficult transition for me. So, and I welcome like anyone who's like a new mother or father who says like, I just want someone to talk to you about this, because I'm going up the wall. And I'm like, I will talk you through it. Like, I'm happy to be that sounding board, because you just want someone to be like, it's fine. You're going crazy. You feel stressed. You're no different. That would be one thing. I think, like, talk to someone who's a little more seasoned than you. Find someone, maybe not even a mentor, but just, shameless plug, Indy Bar like has so many resources for connecting people. And I was never involved with Indy Bar during that stage of my life, and I really wish I would have been, because I feel like it probably would have been extremely helpful for me. But now I'm involved, and it's very cathartic, right? Like it's like removing yourself from isolation, I think, is 100% helpful in getting you out of that funk, and have someone be like, enjoy this. Like, you will come out the other side. You are no better or worse than lawyers that came before you, or the ones that are going to come after you. Because it's hard not to feel like you're constantly failing at everything when you're a new parent and doing this job. So, that's what I would say. Yeah, deep breaths, and, just remove yourself for a split second, and then come back into the moment, and know that you blink, and then, like my son has arm hair, and I'm like, you're going to have chest hair before you know it, and I'm not going to be able to handle it. Again, being in the moment is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
But hard. So don't I don't want anyone to think I'm just take a second. You're like, I don't have a second. I'm freaking out. I'm like, there's that too, but just, deep breaths.
Yeah. Just try your best.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we're certainly not perfect. It's like you said, And there's no guide to parenting or anything like that. We're all just trying to figure it out and,
Yeah.
you know, just do the best you can and be there in that moment when you're there. That's what my wife always tells me. She's like, I just don't expect you to be home every day, all day, but I want you to be present when you're here.
Right. I feel the same way, like with dealing with clients too, right? Not that clients are like children or vice versa, but I really try my best to be, like if I'm here with you, I want to be here with you. This is so hard nowadays too, right? Like on a call with a client, like I don't have my inbox up.
Yep.
I don't want to see emails or, because we're constantly prompted with all the things we have to do. Like I'm not on my phone. It's really hard to just say I'm going to do one thing at a time because that's not the society that we live in, right? Like multitasking. I'm definitely, between motherhood and work and community involvement and family and a husband and friends, like in a book club I've only been to once, and I'm like, I can't go to any of these. I multitask with the best of them, but I really try to remain like, you have my attention right now.
Yeah.
And no one else. But then I have to go, right? Like I have I leave here, I'm like back to back to back, right?
Yeah.
Calls and things. But because then I firmly believe like the quality of the engagement is much better. Your kids are more engaged. Like if I could spend 20 minutes with you really going outside and playing hide and seek and doing something, it's better than just sitting around with you for an hour and a half watching TV while I answer emails on my phone. To me,
yes,
everybody's a little different, but that's my take on it. And so I feel the same way professionally and in other relationships. I'm not always doing that, but I do really try to be mindful of that. So I agree with your wife. I'm sure you do too. You're being recorded.
She's in charge.
Yeah.
What do you think is one myth maybe about business law or bankruptcy that you'd love to debunk? One myth.
One myth. Oh, I got a lot of them, but I would say a myth that I think is that it's somehow harmful
to do a bankruptcy for your business. That's what I always thought.
A business for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like one of the first things that people would say individually that would come in, like it's going to ruin my life. I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, Z. And, you just kind of run people through the reality of what it looks like and say, well, okay, let's, I have to, as the lawyer, tell you it depends, right? Like if you want to go buy, excuse me, a $300 house in 2 weeks, you're not going to be able to. But honestly, you probably wouldn't have been able to even before the bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about some realities here. And then let's talk about what the end goal is. And the same with the business too, right? I mean, or that it's going to ruin everything, or that for some reason you're a failure in
business.
Yeah. In business or in life. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's similar to, saying, well, I need to see a therapist.
Well, that's what I was going to say, that you turn into a therapist.
Oh, 100%, which I love. Where in another life I would have been a therapist because it's counseling, right?
Yes.
It's a legal profession, but that's what we do. You counsel clients, but you give them legal advice because it's never, you're always dealing with a person.
Yeah.
I'm never just dealing with the problem. So whether it's the owner of the business who says, I need to get paid, and these people are trying to file a bankruptcy and they did X, Y, Z, and we can identify, you shouldn't have your debt discharged in the bankruptcy because you have a different type of claim, or you should get paid, or you should get your collateral back, or you should be able to get your rental house back. So you need some relief from the state. And just like mental health, right? Like if you just asking for help is not the problem, right? Like it's treating something bigger, and that is not a failure in and of itself. It's actually a triumph to be able to say, this is going on. I want to hear from you what I could do to make it better. I don't think that's ever a failure. So I would hope that people would see the other side of things, knowing that there is a better outcome eventually, and maybe it's not for them. Like sometimes it's not. We say, bankruptcy's not for everybody, but if you don't ask, then you're not going to know.
Right.
So
Right, exactly. So speaking of asking, how can people or businesses get a hold of you?
yeah, so we have a great website. It's Rubin Levin. Oh, look, I need to actually. My email is different than my actual webpage, so it's rubin-levin.com. But my email address is first letter of my first name, Morgan, my full last name, Decker, like Black and Deckard, at rubin-levin.net.
Okay.
So that's why I sometimes switch it up. So mdecker at rubin-levin.net.
Okay.
Or our office, you could give us a call, 317-634-0300. And yeah, it's a sign of the times. We get calls daily. So
Yeah,
but I'm happy to help, or, sometimes if it's something that we don't directly deal with or there's conflicts, I do know some people where at the very least, I want to give somebody a solution, even if it's not with our firm. So I really try to actively give some information or referrals where they're needed, so that way somebody can get the help that they seek if I can't be a part of that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think it's really important. We tell our clients the same thing. If we can't help you, we'll try to find you someone that can.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they'll keep looking. So
They will.
Yeah.
So, and I am a believer in that. The best referral is a referral that comes from another lawyer.
Yes. No, that's 100% too. And I really try to be active in dealing with state court and federal bankruptcy court. I see a lot of people, meet a lot of people. So regardless of the side of the aisle I'm on, I emailed a opposing counsel on the state court matter just the other day, and I said, hey, I had a lady I can't really help. She wants some defense work. Mm-hmm. I sent her to you. I hope that's okay. And he was like, oh, that's great. I love it. So, not that it changes the outcome of your cases, but, I'm, like I said, I'm just a person. I got kids. I'm trying to go home and feel good about the job I do in all aspects. So we're not out there to fight anybody tooth and nail. I'm just there to be an advocate for my client, but then also, build a good community, including the legal one. So, we're all trying to make it. I'll give business to whoever else if I can help somebody.
Well, and I will say this, we usually recover, in our case, we usually recover from an insurance company, but there are occasions where we recover directly from other companies and people that owe our clients money. And so we usually will send them over to your firm. So if you are a personal injury lawyer and you have a case where you can recover directly from the defendant, I would contact Morgan or one of her partners over there, Rubin and Levin. So
definitely.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening to Circle City Conversations. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more future conversations.